Hey, my name is Nikita Patel, and I'm obsessed with all things career development. Whether that's navigating your professional journey, gaining clarity, or building the confidence to reach your goals, I'm here to support you in crafting your roadmap to success. I've grown a podcast that has reached thousands of people across the globe. I'm growing an online business, and I'm stepping outside of my 9-to-5 to build a career of my dreams. I've walked the path of transformation myself, and now I'm here to share insights, strategies, and stories to help you carve out a career that you love, or even a podcast you've been dreaming of creating, but you've not taken the leap to start yet. If you want to connect with me in between podcast episodes, I share my personal career insights and behind-the-scenes stories with my newsletter community, which you can join using the link in the show notes. This is the Pharmacist Diaries podcast. Well, hello there, friends. Welcome back to the Pharmacist Diaries podcast. I have my secret weapon and special guest, Sanjay, with me tonight.
Hello.
You're back in the hot seat. Every time you always say, hello.
Or extra nervous today because I have no idea what I'm doing here. So I'm just going with the flow.
I'm using you as Pharmacist Diaries host tonight.
Oh, okay.
Surprise.
Okay, great.
So I've been doing a non-traditional pharmacy career series for quite a few weeks now. And this is actually episode 6 of that series. And the whole time I've been interviewing other pharmacists from around the globe around medical comms and working in health tech and different types of spaces outside of the traditional. I realized that I'm one of those humans and I should actually give everybody a life update as well as a little bit of insight into what's happening at the moment with me transitioning towards becoming what I want to be as full-time entrepreneur. So I want to share a little bit about what's been happening. And I haven't been live on YouTube on my own. So I thought I would invite you as my secret weapon.
Awesome. Did you have to dress like me as well? You forgot the cap.
Yeah, we are matching tonight, which is just like pure luck, but also pure cuteness. So I have a few questions that came through email, came through LinkedIn, and I'm really hoping that as this is a live Q&A, live update, ask anything that you want, start sharing your questions in the comments, and I will give a little bit of a live update while we wait for those to start coming through. So it's been about at least a year and a half now since I left my permanent job where I was working as a paediatric pharmacist at the Evelina London Children's Hospital and also as a lecturer at King's College London teaching pharmacy students. And most of you who tune into the podcast know I was doing a really heavy 3 hours a day commute to and from work. And with a second child, having done my IP and studied to become an independent prescriber, plus sleepless nights with a newborn baby and transitioning into becoming a parent of 2, I realized about a year into that journey of being a parent for the second time that I was really struggling and quite burnt out. And this podcast was still going weekly at that time. I was still doing a lot in terms of brand ambassador roles, being an affiliate for different brands, flying out to Germany to do projects with Bayersdorf. And it just came to the point where I was struggling. I didn't have energy and I just felt like the job wasn't necessarily worth it. And at the same time, I think I needed to push myself to make a decision to focus more on Pharmacist Diaries and have the headspace to focus more on this podcast. And part of that transition meant that I needed to leave quite an intense role, or 2 roles even, and transition to working as a locum. And that looked kind of crazy in the first few months. I still continued working for King's College London twice a week. So I did 2 long days. I did some locum shifts in a community pharmacy. I then reached out to Stoke Mandeville Hospital, who are my local. And my really good friend said they actually had some money available to come and work in adults. And I was a little bit nervous to go back to adult care after 6 or 7 years and to work in infectious diseases. But we worked together. I did guidelines, I attended MDTs, ward rounds, and actually transitioned pretty well. And then during that time, my colleague was unfortunately unwell and went on to sick leave, and she works in paediatrics. So a gap opened. So now I am pretty much working 4 days a week for the hospital, sometimes 3 days a week, because I spend 1 day a week looking after our little minion and
That's not
taking
me, by the way.
no. I take him swimming lessons. So I was working 4 days a week. And at the moment, as we've moved house, which I'll go on to that in a second, I'm currently working there 3 days a week, spending 1 day with my son. And then 1 day I'm working on Pharmacist diaries. So it's been a really, really big transition. And things have really shifted for me because we've moved house. And today we are recording our first ever video in our new home.
Hold that thought.
Technical issues.
Yes, this is our first. I can't believe this is the first time we're recording in this new space, but it's just been. Well, it's actually not been that long. It was July, right? So where are we sitting in the end of September? Summer holidays. When you move, obviously there's a million and one things that you have to do, get the space looking right, and finally we got around to it. So that was a whirlwind life update. You went through quite a few years in a very short space of time. What's been the biggest learning for you in that time that you've just described?
That's a big question. This
is really live. I've not prepped on any of these questions. She has no idea what I'm about to ask her. She said ask me anything, so stay tuned.
Okay, there's a couple of things. So the first thing is that before I had children and before even I got married, I was really focused on being this powerhouse career woman. And I've done really well with doing my residency, working in Abu Dhabi, flying out and, changing my whole life, coming back to the NHS, taking on leadership roles and doing loads of different things. I got this role at the Evelina, which was absolutely incredible. I found paediatric palliative care, worked at King's College London. Everything has just been absolutely incredible. And finding the podcast has obviously made a major shift in my perspective and my mindset of what I'm capable of. And I was really reluctant to quit that permanent job because I felt like I needed to be in a full-time career, which was permanent. And having quit that job, I have realized that I am enjoying life so much more. And it's been such a hard decision. But now that I've experienced it, it's been really amazing to see how I can focus more on entrepreneurship, how I can spend more time with my family. The flexibility with locuming has been absolutely incredible to just say that, oh, by the way, 2 months from now, I'm flying to Germany to do this project and I'm not going to be working. It's not really, can I have annual leave and try and figure out who can fill the gaps? It's just a case of, I don't have availability on these days. This is what I'm doing. See you later. And I do it really kindly. And of course, if I can find cover, I do, but I don't have to. And that's been such an incredible shift for me because when you're in a permanent role and you're part of a team, you really care if you do take annual leave and you leave your colleagues to kind of like fill in the gaps, and you feel bad if they're really, really pressured in terms of the resource and the environment. But in this case, it's just allowed me to take a step back and look at the bigger picture and what it is that I want to achieve. And part of that has allowed me to put our house on the market and come up with a plan to downsize our home significantly so that we can spend more time traveling around the world, taking adventures with our children, looking towards both of us having remote digital jobs so that we can spend more time as a unit. And the second thing I was going to say was that moving further out into the countryside has completely shifted my perspective of balance and slowing down and not constantly being in hustle culture. And some of you may have noticed, like, I'm a little bit more quiet on social media. I haven't been as quick to answer DMs on LinkedIn, but I've just taken a step back and realized that I just want to be in the present moment and not constantly be online, and that's okay. I've spent 5 years really hustling with this podcast alongside everything else that I'm doing, and I'm really proud of that. And I definitely wouldn't be here today if I hadn't have done all of those things. And I loved every minute of it. But having slowed down, I've realized how much joy I'm now experiencing just doing the school runs and spending time with my kids after school. Like today we were bracelet making and just spending time having family dinners and not worrying about picking up the laptop every night. I haven't picked up the laptop in the evening for weeks. I don't actually remember the last time I did it. Whilst in our old house, I pretty much did it every day.
Yeah, that's huge. I think that's something we've really managed to implement here. Then, and I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. Actually, I know there's a couple of reasons which I'll talk about in a minute. But we really tried we really tried to do that when we were in the old place. But we did end up working. You would do a lot of recordings in the evenings, which you still do, obviously, with the lives, which may or may not change in the future. But you were constantly doing recordings in the evenings, and I was doing a lot of editing in the evenings. And since we've come here, that has slowed down. I think partly because we have created, I mean, people can't see this room apart from what they can see here, but we created quite a nice, relaxing atmosphere, kind of environment for us where, we just put the music on. I've managed to stick to a habit of reading every night, not looking at my phone, journaling, doing all those things that, again, we've wanted to do for a long time. And for some reason, just since we moved here, we've managed to flick that switch and make it happen.
I mean, something has completely shifted in both of us, which is just incredible that a house move can do that. I've been using my Whoop for the last couple of years, and I haven't really focused on the goals side of things when it comes to monitoring my health statistics. But in the last 7 weeks, having moved here, we're really close to a really nice gym health club. They have a really nice gym area, really good classes, sauna, steam room, and it's such a nice place for a parent or anyone to go to look after themselves. And the kids do their swimming lessons there, and it's lovely. You drive in and there's all these horses, and we're like so far in the countryside, it's just amazing. And Sanjay bought me that for my birthday as a membership. And for 7 weeks, like, I've been going to the gym 3 times a week at least. I've been doing a minimum of 14,000 steps a day. We've been eating so much healthier. I've been getting, decent sleep. That's something I need to work on. And I think in combination, a lot of the things that I've been doing to improve my own lifestyle and my own health, that is the time that I'm now spending instead of being in work mode or pharmacist diaries mode or social media mode. And I think I'm loving it a lot. And that slower pace of life is something that I'm enjoying. And I'm realizing that I don't need to be kind of outward facing online as much as I have been in the past. That online presence doesn't need to be done as frequently as I was before. And I feel so happy. Like, I can't believe we're here recording in our little cottage, and it's the first time that we're doing it together, which is why I was like, also it's a special moment to do a live Q&A and a live update. So I'm really happy that we're here.
Awesome. All right. Do you want me to carry on with questions, or do you want to take questions from the chat, or have you've got some previous questions that people have already submitted prior to today's recording?
Yes, so we can start with the message, the question that came through. But for those of you who are with me live, if there's anything that's kind of cropping up or creeping in, feel free to write it in the comments because I will answer it today, and I would love to answer. And if you've got any questions for Sanjay, fire them away as well. He won't mind answering.
All right. So this first one is interesting. It says, I would love to know if you have ever suffered from imposter syndrome and how you handled it. So I'm not sure what the context was. Was it imposter syndrome in terms of you as a pharmacist or you as a podcaster? So maybe you want to answer on both fronts just in case.
I think this is in the context of entrepreneurship and podcasting.
Okay.
And as a pharmacist, I've probably not really experienced much imposter syndrome in my career, I don't think. And you can...
Incorrect.
Go on then.
Well, when you came to Dubai, you were like, I can't get a job. I'm not good enough. Like, I'm never going to get employed. Yes or no?
There was some element of that.
Some
yes.
element. It was a lot of elements.
It was quite a frustrating journey, though, guys. I spent months looking for a job, and every single application was rejected or not responded to. And that's part and parcel of living in the UAE. Is difficult to find a job as a pharmacist. But because I had just finished my and I'm defending it, because I had just finished my residency and I felt really confident that I should get a job, it was a real setback for me mentally. Would you consider that as imposter syndrome?
What did I say to you at the time? What was I saying to you? Do you remember?
Be patient. It takes time. Have conversations with people. Networking is really important here. It doesn't just work through applications. It's who you know. And also, I was overqualified for a lot of the jobs that I applied for, and that was part of the reason too.
And then how did you get your first break? Do you remember?
I got an email from a recruitment agency for an interview out of nowhere, and it was the best.
The best thing.
It was a great job.
It wasn't out of nowhere, right? It's like people think, oh, they just got 1 million followers. Well, that didn't happen out of nowhere, right? It was all the work that had happened before that led up to that moment. And, you know, as you know, I believe nothing is a coincidence. So, yeah, there was imposter syndrome at that stage in your career. Perhaps not so much since you've come back from there, because in fact, no, there was.
No, actually, you're bringing some memories.
You also had imposter syndrome when you came back from UAE, because you thought, oh, I've been out of the NHS for a long time. I'm not going to be good enough. So,
okay, yeah, guys, this is all coming back. The memories. I think I'd block out imposter syndrome from my life, which is kind of a good thing. So when I moved back from the UAE, I had left the NHS as a band 6 junior pharmacist. And when I worked in the UAE, I had stepped into a leadership position, which in the NHS would be an 8B or an 8C role. So I kind of skipped bands. I didn't necessarily work my way up the chain as the standard NHS roles kind of expect you to. And a lot of that was not chance, but it was a good application and understanding that I had good experience, and they gave me a chance, and it worked out in my favor, and it was amazing. And it was an incredible experience to have all of that opportunity in leadership and to work with the medical director of a company who really did mentor me amazingly and help me to build my skill set. When I moved back to the UK, I was thinking to myself that there's no way the NHS would be happy to hire me where I skip bands in the hospital kind of like system. And I think I was slightly brainwashed in terms of what the expectations are when you work in the NHS. You do finish your diploma as a band 6, you move into a band 7 role. You kind of have to get your experience as a specialist pharmacist. Maybe you're doing rotations, but more responsibility. And then you kind of step into the 8. I think it's quite rare for people to skip bands. So I emailed my old Oxford residency manager and I said, this is what I've done for the last 5 years. Do you think that I should apply for an 8A? And he literally sent me an email saying, you're crazy. Of course you should apply for a management position if you have that experience. It's absolutely necessary for you to do it. Do not apply for anything less than that. And until I received that email and that feedback from someone who knows me really well as a pharmacist, it didn't click that I could do it. And that sounds crazy. But when I came back, I started applying for positions, and actually I got the first job that I applied for, and I was just overwhelmed with joy that I was hired for the role. And this was when I worked actually at Stoke Mandeville Hospital for a maternity contract covering the educational program directive for pre-reg pharmacists, which is where I found a lot of joy in education and training. And I also then applied to work at the Evelina as a paediatric pharmacist with no experience in pediatrics, which was for me quite challenging to kind of step into. I had done ad hoc kind of work at Stoke Mandeville covering, again, the neonatal unit and a pediatric ward, but I didn't have extensive amount of experience. And I knew that if I had competition in that interview, it may be hit or miss, because those individuals could have 4, 5, 6 years of experience in pediatrics, and I pretty much had 6 months. But it was my leadership experience, my kind of knowledge around education and training, and the things that I did in the UAE that definitely got me that job. And a lot of the interview prep, a lot of the, being courageous and stepping out your comfort zone and just doing things that are uncomfortable to you really helped me to prepare for those interviews, and also give myself a bit of a boost and that confidence that I could do it. And things are really different now, because I definitely have imposter syndrome as a podcaster, and it's something I haven't trained to do. I don't have experience. Okay, no, I don't have like a degree or any educational experience or student experience in podcasting, in marketing, in sales, in, email conversions, in kind of like the public speaking side of things. All of this video content creation, everything that I've been doing over the last 5 years has been me stepping out my comfort zone and trying something and having fun, just enjoying the journey. But I do have a lot of ups and downs when it comes to imposter syndrome, because sometimes I just don't believe that I'm in the position I'm in, and I find it hard to overcome that, because it still feels sometimes relatively new to me when I'm saying that, I have to sell myself sometimes. If I want to pitch to somebody that, hey, I want to work with you as a brand, I know how to podcast, I could help you build your podcast. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed. Oh my God, you hear me say that? I find it really challenging. But deep down, sometimes when I have conversations with people on, say, free calls and things like that, I realize like how much I know, because when I share that information, they're blown away by the information I'm giving. And then I realize, wow, I know so much more than I expect. And that comes in waves. I don't know if it will ever go away, and it's okay. I think it's actually a good thing. But I manage it by telling myself that it's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable with where I'm at, and also stepping into that role and enjoying the part, being part of that kind of like process of learning and experiencing and just doing it.
Yeah. So the answer to the question is yes, you have suffered from imposter syndrome. You've given some good examples there of how you've overcome it. I think the thing with imposter syndrome is no matter how, if you've had it once, you're more than likely to get it again, because as you progress in anything you're doing, if you talk about podcasting, I mean, I get it, as a creator, as a videographer, as a video editor, because the deeper you go into something, the more you kind of start seeing the layers above you, and you just start thinking, shit, I can't do what they're doing, or I don't create videos like that, or my podcast isn't as good as that. And that imposter syndrome will always creep in. Some people just naturally don't have it, and amazing, more power to them. But yeah, I know I suffer from it. Best way to overcome it? I think you kind of made a good example there of listing when you started talking about the skills that you've got and actually what you have achieved. That helps you to understand and realize, oh, actually, do you know what? I do know a lot more. And, talking to you when you came back from when you came back from the UAE, you emailed your boss and they kind of validated that actually, no, you are a lot, you're a lot further on than you maybe think you are. So maybe getting other people to get their opinions, people that you value, people that you trust. I mean, in your case, it was your old boss. So I think that's a good way to kind of just validate or justify, or not justify, to the opposite, to squash that that imposter syndrome, to make you believe that actually, no, I can do this and I am good enough.
it's a little bit of reassurance. It kind of
Yeah.
goes a long way. I've also found that it's valuable to go and search for jobs on the internet or LinkedIn, jobs that you would like to have that you think you're not quite ready to apply for, and look at the job description and their expectations of that role and see how much of it you can truly do. And if you're really uncomfortable with a few elements of it, then maybe that's something that you need to focus on it or improve on. But I do want to kind of make a bold statement and say that you don't need to have everything ticked off your kind of experience list to apply for that job. Even if there are things that you don't know how to do that are on that job description, doesn't mean that you don't qualify to apply. And that's something that I've had to overcome, that it's okay that maybe you fulfill 70% of the criteria, but you're willing to learn, you can quickly learn, and you're enthusiastic to grow as a professional, and then apply for it anyways.
Awesome. All right. Let's go to the next one. So this one is, when you stepped away from a traditional hospital role, did you ever worry about losing touch with your clinical identity as a pharmacist?
I'm still trapped. One of the reasons why I haven't stepped away from working as a clinical pharmacist in my locum environment at the moment is because of fear. I am genuinely afraid to lose my identity as a pharmacist. And I've talked about this before, and deep down, I know that it doesn't matter if I leave a clinical position. I am still 100% a pharmacist by background, and I'm utilizing a lot of my skill set in different ways. And I know that, and I believe it, but I am so tied down to an identity that links directly to patient care. And it's a really tough one for me. I also absolutely love being a clinical pharmacist. I love pediatrics. I love being with children every day. So to make the transition from a traditional pharmacist to someone who's stepping into what feels quite unknown, there aren't that many pharmacists who become full-time podcasters, like, out there. And it feels crazy that it's good crazy, but it feels quite crazy that that's what I'm planning on doing, and that's what I want to achieve. And I do find it really difficult, but I guess I reflect on this regularly and remind myself and have conversations with other people all the time who have left clinical practice, who could still consider themselves pharmacists. And there's many of us out there. So I think part of that is to do regular affirmations to remind yourself of what your foundation is, because by trade, by background, if you're keeping your GPHC registration active and you've got that degree, like, you are a pharmacist by background. But it is really difficult when you've been in a clinical environment. Like, I've been a clinical pharmacist for 15 years. It's 100% part of my identity. So that shift is quite challenging, but I'm really excited now that I'm doing it part-time, and I'm building that confidence to continue to cut down those hours and pick up my entrepreneur life instead.
It really depends what you're doing in your non-traditional pharmacist role, right? So in your case, if we just take the podcast in isolation, do you really need to be a clinical pharmacist or a practicing pharmacist to interview other pharmacists about their careers? No. You've done it for over a decade.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of experience. You understand the role. You don't need to be registered as a pharmacist. You can continue to do that, and you could carry on doing that, and you could do very well doing that. Do you need to be a practicing pharmacist to create content and to teach other pharmacists to step away from their 9 to 5 and explore other options in entrepreneurship, public speaking, content creation, podcast creation? No, you absolutely don't. So if you look at it from that perspective, then it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I understand the identity that you're tied to, because, and a lot of pharmacists out there, because of the amount of time that you've spent studying to get that title, to get that qualification. You may have worked your way up the bands if you're working in the NHS and got to a certain level, and then you kind of think, I'm just giving it all up. But you're not really. I mean, there's lots of good examples of people who, in your network especially, who are pharmacists who have stepped away and from a traditional pharmacist role, and they're it hasn't impacted them in a negative way. So I think we at first think that. I feel like there's a certain comfort associated with having that one foot in the clinical setting, because there's pretty much a job for life there if you really wanted it to work for the NHS. And some people do, and of course we need as many of those people as we can, because it provides such a wonderful service to us. But for those that want to step away, I think the biggest growth comes when there's a little bit of discomfort, and that might be part of your discomfort, to kind of discover actually what you can do without having to be a clinical hands-on pharmacist.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes back to imposter syndrome as well, because I think the thought has come up in my head that if I leave my clinical pharmacist role, what gives me the right to talk and teach people about pharmacy careers if I'm not actually practicing as a pharmacist? Like, that has come up in my head. And actually, my role is to host the podcast. And if I'm interviewing other people, part of that role is actually to capture information from them. Like, the majority of the role is to capture the best information and the best conversation and the best outcome from my guest. And I'm the host, so I don't necessarily need it. But that is perfect example of imposter syndrome, that you feel like you need all of these things and you kind of don't. But bear in mind that when you leave a clinical pharmacist role, you could end up working in a non-traditional role that impacts patient care on a day-to-day basis. When you look at medical communications or health tech, product manager roles, all of the roles that I've actually interviewed to date are still 100% relevant, because you absolutely need your pharmacist degree in order to do those jobs, and it makes you a better professional for those roles.
Yeah, this next question is very similar though, isn't it? It's how do you keep your professional expertise relevant whilst building something entirely new? It's similar to the previous question about stepping away, isn't it? And having one hand in your professional expertise.
Yeah, and I think this can be quite challenging, because as a pharmacist, we're typically taught that when you kind of niche down and you specialize, you kind of go die hard for that one thing. And a lot of pharmacists, particularly in the NHS, will specialize in a particular area and kind of go hard in that area for years and years to come. And you become very linked to that identity, like whether you're like, for me it's pediatrics, but it could be that you're anything, like a cardiology pharmacist, or you work in medicines information. That becomes really relevant. But for me, I'm really multi-passionate. I know that as an individual, as a professional, and just a general human being, I'm really multi-passionate, and I like to use different skills, and I 100% thrive when I am able to kind of context switch. And I've been doing that for years. I think 8 years now it's been since I've been doing multiple things at the same time. I came back to the UK and did 2 days a week working as a locum in emergency medicine at Oxford, because I went back to Oxford, and then 3 days as a educational program director for Stoke Mandeville Hospital. So I had the 2 jobs. I then did part educational program director and then started covering the neonatal ward. And then from there, I got the Evelina split job, which was pediatrics and education and training at the university. And now it has just become podcasting, entrepreneurship, becoming a business owner, content creation, video content creation, as well as still being a clinical pharmacist. But what I do to kind of not overwhelm myself with all the things is to split my days. That's really worked for me. And I gave myself a year ago an official Pharmacist Diaries day on a Monday. And yes, I know I've worked a lot of evenings and weekends because I'm excited to. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really passionate about what I do as a podcaster, and I do it for you as my community. I really enjoy engaging with you, interacting with you, sharing information, writing emails to you all the time. Like, that's really important to me. So I'm really focused on making that become a reality. But at the same time, I keep my clinical kind of experience and expertise really relevant in my pharmacist job at the hospital.
So the answer for you really is just by having the job, by still working as a practicing pharmacist, that's you keeping your professional expertise relevant. Do you go to any conferences or industry events, or do you do any what do you still have to do CPD, things like that? What about those sorts of things?
Yeah, so as a paediatric pharmacist, I used to be really active with the neonatal and paediatric pharmacy group. Since transitioning to becoming a locum pharmacist, but also trying to focus more time on becoming a better entrepreneur and podcaster, I would say that my CPD has kind of like transitioned into more entrepreneur life and doing a lot more courses or being part of communities, or I have a mastermind group, which has been an incredible part of my journey over the last few months. And I've created great friendships and that accountability. And I think I'm doing a lot more in that space. And NPPG as a group still exists, and I'm still an email member, but I don't really actively go and connect with those pharmacists anymore. And that's fine. As a pharmacist, all of us know that we have our kind of like yearly CPD, and we have to do what we can to make that a reality. And that I've got mine coming up this October. We all hate doing it, but we have to do it.
Awesome. What else we got here?
So
I don't know who sent that one in.
Who sent that? Why are you so awesome? That's amazing. I love that. I don't know. You tell me. Why am I so awesome? You can answer that for me.
Why are you so awesome? Well, all the reasons you've just given, all the things that you're doing, all the things that you've done, all the changes that you've made in your career and personal life. From, how many times have we moved house now? I've just lost count since I've known you. It's it's gone into double figures, I'm pretty sure.
I think we're on 10.
Yeah. So it's all of those things which people tend to not do because out of fear of, or out of fear, but also because of the uncomfortable feeling that it gives. And I think we've kind of just constantly lived outside that comfort zone. And you've been a massive part of that. So I think those types of, and especially as I said, especially in a job like medicine, pharmacy, healthcare, working an NHS job, which is quite demanding, not quite, it's very demanding. It is hard work. You don't get paid enough as far as I'm concerned. I don't think anyone in the NHS does. And you've just kept pushing and kept going and kept moving and kept going, and then trying to find different things to do. And you've made that happen. And I think that's, that's quite unique, which is why a lot of these questions are what they are, because people are trying to figure out how do I do this? You just got to do it. and you've done it. And I think that's really important. And I think a lot of it has been trying to figure it out as you go along. And that scares people. I understand. Look, I understand, not everyone is in a position to quit their job, and you haven't, yes, you quit your full-time job, but you've still been working almost full-time hours until very recently. So, you just have to take that plunge. And if there's something that you're really passionate about, the monetary, I think what happens is a lot of people who want to step away from a traditional role, their first thought is, how am I going to make money? And I think that's the wrong thought, right? I understand why that thought is there. So we're not saying quit your job and have zero income and then try and figure it out, because that's not what you've done. And I don't recommend that. What we're saying is build something on the side that you're passionate about. Start small, but build it. Like you started with an audio podcast that I kind of influenced you into doing, because I was doing one at the time. And you had imposter syndrome with that, but you started, we kept it very simple, but you learn as you go along. And if you look at that snowball effect to where you are now, speaking on stage in Germany, being flown around, doing this and doing that, and coaching people, that all started from there. And I think that's the way to look at it. I think if you try and just say, right, I'm going to do a business plan, I'm going to make this much money, I think that's the wrong way of going about it. If you do something you're passionate about, you do it well, you continue to do it, you have consistency, which you've done, you've been consistent over the last 5-6 years now, then the money will come, right?
Yeah.
But I think when we focus on that as the outcome, it's the wrong foot to start with, because and we see that, and I see this with, for example, podcasters. I don't want to, I know this audience is a pharmacy podcast, a pharmacist audience, but podcasters who start a podcast and their first thought is, how do I monetize this? That's the wrong thought. The first thought should be, how can I make this add value to the people that I'm going to be targeting? How can I give them value? And if you can give them value, they will continue to listen. If you get loyal listeners, then you can monetize, right? So it's kind of very similar with a career, with a building a kind of a non-traditional role.
Yeah, and the other thing to consider is that when you start something, it's really important to look at the problem that you're solving, because if you're solving a big enough problem to the right audience, then whatever you're building will actually work, whether it's a YouTube channel with educational videos, or you're building a community of pharmacists who are looking to, develop their careers. Or for me, this podcast started from solving the problem that my own students at King's College London didn't understand the variety of options that were available to them in this profession. But the podcast has shifted massively to showcasing what this pharmacy profession has to offer around the world, not just in the UK, but you get this insight into someone's life that you may not ever meet that person in real life, but you would get insight into their entire journey, their ups, their downs, their challenges, their achievements, how they've actually done those transitions, as well as what skills that they've got, maybe interview prep, CV stuff, like all of that comes out through these really authentic conversations. But I've just really enjoyed having the conversations. I've really enjoyed making new friends. I've really enjoyed spending time with people I probably would never meet, but the podcast has brought us together. And some of those friendships will last forever. So Pharmacist Diaries was never built with any idea that I would make money from it. I had no idea that that was even a possibility for me. And to be upfront, I cannot quit my locum job right now. I am not earning enough money with Pharmacist Diaries to quit my role in the NHS. And it has been 5 years. And of course, I wish right now that I had the ability to do entrepreneurship full time, but it is hard and it does take consistency. And I think one of the things, it's kind of a catch-22. If I had the opportunity to work on Pharmacist Diaries as a brand and a business 5 days a week, then of course I would generate the income to, completely, surpass my NHS salary. I know that. But to get that kind of shift right, because I've got a mortgage, I've got kids, I've got a family to look after, I've got bills to pay, that shift has to be really gentle. It's going to take time. And if you can accept that, I think actually the journey of Pharmacist Diaries has been so much more enjoyable, because it is passion, it's pure joy, it's pure fun. It's just getting to know myself and what it is that I'm good at, what I like doing. I mean, today, just being on live and being in our living room and being with you, I feel really happy, because I actually haven't done an in-person podcast for months now. And I'm trying this whole online YouTube live thing, and I love going live, by the way. And I love spending time with you guys and having the questions come through, and please send some more questions. I would really like them. But I've missed interacting with someone on a face-to-face, right? And it's kind of about finding that joy for people.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it really well. We've got a question here from BA. Hey, how would you recommend healthcare professionals begin building a personal brand to open new doors, stroke opportunities?
Oh, I just answered that. That was amazing. I didn't even know that question was there. I think it depends what your... Well, there's a few ways to kind of go about it. I think if you don't really know what your brand is going to look like, and I've come across so many pharmacists now, and I've got a WhatsApp community where people have joined to say that they want to do something else. They have been working as a pharmacist, for a minimum kind of 2-3 years. They're finding that the work is really repetitive. They're not as creative or innovative as they want to be, and it's not exactly what they kind of expected stepping into this profession, as well as those pharmacists who have been working in the career for like 10, 15, 20 years, and they're now burnt out and need kind of a way to escape and utilize other skills. And they all say like they don't know where to start, and they don't know what it is that they could do as part of like a personal brand or a business. And I think part of that, and how I kind of share that, is to start using your voice online, and to, especially on places like LinkedIn. But if you're really good at creating content on Canva, as an example, for Instagram, or you can get scrappy and talk directly to camera and go on to TikTok, like just talk, just get out there and like talk about what you're passionate about, or what you're enjoying, or what you're interested in, or hot topics that you can debate about. And on LinkedIn, it's just about sharing your professional opinion, or maybe something that you're experiencing, or a day in the life, or maybe something that you learnt on the job, or stepping into the unknown or an uncomfortable situation when you did a new presentation to a group of people, or presenting your research or an abstract, or going to a conference. There are so many things in your day-to-day that you don't realize you can start sharing. And until you start sharing and putting yourself out there and stepping into the unknown, you won't really know what that personal brand like might develop into, and what opportunities can come from that, because you can't, like, you're not sharing like what's happening in your day-to-day life. People will start engaging with you. People will start commenting on your posts. People will start DMing you and saying, oh, it's really interesting that you have talked about X, or it's so cool that you work as a specialist diabetes pharmacist. I'm one too. Do you want to do a live together? And slowly things develop and collaborations start happening, or people may invite you to talk on a webinar or a masterclass, or a pharmaceutical company might reach out and say, hey, can you consult for us 2 to 3 hours a week on X topic, because this is your area of expertise. You become a thought leader just by putting out your professional opinion. And to be honest, it doesn't have to be in pharmacy. If you've got other passions, other skills, other things that you do, like I talk a lot about balancing life as a parent and a professional. It's something that I find really, really hard, and I'm continuously working on. But people know me as that person who likes to talk about being a parent and the challenges around that, as well as being a professional. So get out there and kind of create content, even if it's in the form of a blog online, or starting a YouTube channel and doing some shorts. Like, go out there and create content, and opportunities will kind of come in your direction, sometimes by chance, or kind of like the unknown.
Yeah, and I'm going to take that question literally. How would you reckon healthcare professionals begin building a personal brand to open new doors and opportunities? The begin part is key for me. I look, you can create carousels and canvas and all of that stuff, great. But if you really want to build authority and you want to open new doors to opportunities, and I'm very biased, of course, you need to start creating videos. You need to make videos. You need to put video out online, because if you think about it, we live in a world where AI can pretty much do all of your content creation, right? You can just go on to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you decide to choose, and you can create a content calendar, a month's worth of content just like that. And there's a lot of noise right now. And personally, I think, and I heard a lot of people say this, you can tell when content has been generated by AI, especially text content, carousels, all of those sorts of things where text is the main, where you're reading something or visually looking at something, which is kind of a picture. Yes, AI can create video. I still don't think it's good enough yet to really kind of be, distinguishable between what's fake and what's not. But putting your voice, as you said earlier, having your voice go out there, or your face, that's what people are going to buy into, right? People want your authentic voice. They want to see you. They want to hear you. That's what builds trust, right? If we're talking about new doors and opportunities, well, if you think about if you were going for a job, you go for an interview face to face. People want to see you, right? Maybe back in the day you did telephone interviews, but you'd also go and see someone in person. So it's the same thing here. If you're trying to reach out, get brands interested in you, you want to reach out and build partnerships in the future, or potentially have, contract or locum roles, put your face out there, get out there. We've all got a phone. I'm using my mobile phone right now. This is what we're using to stream. Use your phone, get a decent microphone, and just start creating content, and start with something that you're passionate about, right? This is all, when I say that to people, they go, that's great, Sanjay, but what do I talk about, right? What are you passionate about? What could you talk about for 30 seconds? And it's all it needs to be is 30 seconds. We live in this Insta culture now where, people's attention spans are shorter than a fly. So you've literally only got 30 seconds that people are probably going to stick around and watch your video. And you've only got 5 seconds to hook them in to make sure that they stay and watch your video. So what could you talk about for 30 seconds within your industry, or something you're passionate about? Maybe your parent, as you mentioned, that's a really, really good one. Think how many parents are out there trying to juggle their role in healthcare and their role as a parent and their role as a carer and all of those things. But what is it that you can talk about for 30 seconds and not kind of have to think about it? Start there, right? Just turn your phone on yourself, create that video content, get it out there. But what else would I recommend aside from that is be consistent, right? If you are not consistent with the thing that you do, and we've talked about this a gazillion times, and I'm kind of bored of saying it, I should get a t-shirt printed, but stick with it. You've been consistent with your podcast now for 5 years, and you just said a few minutes ago, I couldn't quit my full-time job and do that and just rely on the income that you currently have. So that just goes to show it. This stuff takes time. So if you don't think you could do this whatever you're going to do for the next 5 years, then maybe it's not the right thing to do. But be consistent with it, stick with it, put it out there, post it. I think LinkedIn is a great place. The other argument I get against it is, well, everyone's doing it now. Well, actually, everyone's not doing it now. Because if you look at the data, and I haven't got the exact stats, but let's just take LinkedIn as a platform on its own.
I know the stats.
Okay, correct. Just come and fill in the stats. But out of the millions and millions and millions of people that are registered as a user on LinkedIn, I think less than 10% actually post anything. Out of that, it's like 1 or 2% that are creating video content, right? Is that have you got any other stats said? But that's not a lot of people, right? It feels like a lot because when you go onto LinkedIn, you may see a lot of that content, but you've got 1 to 2% of the people that are on LinkedIn out of millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of people, maybe hundreds of millions. I don't know how many users LinkedIn has, but you start making video, you're in that 1 to 2%. You're going to stand out. You're going to build authority, and people will relate to all different types of people. So you don't try and be something that you're not. I think authenticity is a key thing, and you need to turn up authentically online to really build trust and build credibility.
Yeah, you made some really good points. So glad that you're on this tonight, my secret weapon. I think there's around 4% of active users on LinkedIn, and everyone else are scrollers.
Right.
So it's a perfect opportunity that if you're a healthcare professional and the content is relevant to your target audience as to who you want to reach out to, and if those users exist on LinkedIn and you know that they're actively using the platform, even if they are scrollers, they are more than likely to see the content that you're creating. And you're going to start doing video content, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be scrappy, and the video is not going to be perfect. The lighting's not going to be exactly what you think it should be, like the polished Instagram videos. You might fumble your words. I do it here all the time, and it's okay. Like, you are human, and it's totally okay to start that way and make mistakes along the journey. And I look back at like a lot of my old videos and I'm like, oh, look how far I've come. I couldn't even stare into like a camera lens. I found it so difficult. And now, like, here we are recording an hour-long video, and I'm literally staring at you guys for a whole hour, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to kind of get out there and do it.
Cool. All right, we've got a fellow podcaster here, Prison Pharmacy Connect. Hello. Hello, fellow podcaster. How did you decide long-term collaborations / sponsorships?
Oh, this is a great question. One thing that's happened in my journey as a podcaster, and it's going back to the previous question, is that video content has really helped to other people kind of find me and then it's positioned me in a good place where they have watched a lot of my video content. They've seen that I'm a healthcare professional. They've seen what I'm like on video. They can see that I'm providing good educational content. The obviously quality of the video is awesome, thanks to Sanjay. So that kind of credibility, the consistency has allowed brands to kind of find me and reach out to me. And when that started happening, and in fact, the first one was on Instagram and I thought it was a fake message, I was blown away that somebody wanted to ask me to come and speak at their conference. And in fact, it was Bayersdorf, and I flew out to Germany for the first time. And I just couldn't believe that this was a reality that I was facing. I was being flown to Hamburg. I went to go speak at this absolutely incredible brand summit that they do, that I still, even having gone a second time, I'm just blown away by the whole experience and absolutely love it. And that was just me stepping out of my comfort zone. And I spoke in front of a group of about 150 people face to face, but there was around 10,000 people online, and I couldn't see those people online, which was great. And so I just focused on the people in front of me, which I think for a lot of pharmacists, we are totally capable of speaking to larger crowds. A lot of us have been to conferences to speak. We go to universities to do public speaking. We present to our own pharmacy teams doing presentations, so we're quite used to it. Yes, it's still hard, and yes, I was speaking to a whole group of people that aren't in pharmacy, so that was a little bit overwhelming, but it was such a rewarding experience and I absolutely loved every second of it. And that relationship and just trying something new, I realized how much I enjoyed it. So unless I had just, stepped or I didn't step out of my comfort zone, I wouldn't have known whether or not I would have really enjoyed that experience. So that collaboration was, again, them finding me and contacting me, and I was, awarded an amazing opportunity. But there are also partnerships that I have where I've reached out to the brand. So I interviewed a pharmacist, Kevin Levers, who is the CEO of The Naked Pharmacy. I didn't know that much about him, but I thought it was pretty cool that he worked in the pharmaceutical industry. He worked in natural medicine for about 40 years and then decided to build his own brand. And at the time that I interviewed him, I checked out his website. I looked at all these amazing products that he was selling, asked him to hop onto an interview and talk about his journey. And his journey really inspired me. His story was absolutely incredible. What he shared about building his own brand, his company, his website really resonated with me. And once I had seen that and understood where he was coming from, I felt like that was a natural step in the next direction. That, hey, I like this company. I like the CEO. I'm really fond of the product. It's so incredible. There's so much value. I do have a discount code, by the way. It's PD20 for 20% off. And I use their products daily. My children use them. Sanjay loves them. And we've been using them for the last few years. And I feel 100% confident going out there and saying, it's a great brand, here's a discount code, and I am receiving commission in exchange for that. And part of that is just developing relationships with different brands and saying, does that resonate with me as an individual? And am I comfortable kind of showcasing the brand? But also, is it a product that my audience and my community and the people who listen to my podcast or watch my videos, would they find it beneficial? Because it's not really about me. It's all about my community and who I'm actually creating this content for. And of course, there's no point me kind of sharing brands or becoming partners with brands who don't have a product or a service that my audience is going to use. It just makes zero sense, and I'm not going to make any money from it. I think a little bit of trial and error in the beginning stages of doing more affiliates and partnerships would work really well. There are ways for me, I've done a few kind of sponsored podcasts, like a series where I've done, 2 or 3 videos as an example to see how my audience likes that content or how it does on YouTube, etc. And either they paid me for that content or we've got an agreement in place. And collaborations don't always necessarily link to monetary value. Like at the moment, this non-traditional pharmacy series is being done in collaboration with Jamie Wilkie, and Jamie Wilkie is an incredible pharmacist who also talks a lot about non-traditional careers. She's really passionate about it. She showcases the lives and careers of pharmacists who do things outside of the norm through an email newsletter. And I really wanted to turn that email newsletter into video content. And I just reached out to her and said, hey, can we do this? And of course she said yes. And so collaborations and partnerships can come in that format as well. So there's so many different ways to work with people. And I think it just truly, you've just got to try some stuff out and have some conversations with different brands to see what options there are.
I think ask your audience. Right?
True.
You mentioned that this is all about them and you're doing it all for them. Do a poll, right? Ask them, say, what kind of brands or what kind of products or services would you be interested in, and kind of do little polls and surveys and ask them and see what they think, because that can give you a good indicator as to actually this is what they want to hear. Because the last thing you want is to kind of pull in a brand or a partnership that puts them off, right? So is it relevant to them, and what do they want to hear? Listen to your competitors or other podcasts in your space and look at the brands that are affiliated with them, and just see if they align. But yeah, I think you gave some really good answers there. So make sure it aligns with your values.
Awesome.
All
I
right.
think if there's no other questions, well, if you have a question, fire away. Yeah, I mean, I am genuinely excited for where I'm at right now. I think there's a lot of exciting things to come for Pharmacist Diaries and us working together as like business owners and going into partnership together and helping other people start podcasts or video content. So I'm really looking forward to that. And again, that's feels like I'm stepping into the unknown a little bit. Feels kind of scary, but I'm also really excited and looking forward to a lot of that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it was so good to come on to a live tonight. I am back next week. So if you're here live, you're hearing a sneak peek of what's coming next week. I'm actually having Jamie Wilkie come on to the podcast next week on Monday. It's 8:30 p.m. UK time, because I really want to interview her about her journey as an entrepreneur. I cannot wait, because I've interviewed her a few years ago and I want to get a life update. She's also recently released this incredible resource that is completely free. And there are over sort of 200 non-traditional pharmacy career kind of roles that have come out in an amazing kind of website that she's built: salaries, career progression, skill set, what you do in those roles. You know, it's great. And I want to share a lot about that resource with you, but also talk to her about her current kind of situation with entrepreneurship, and yeah, just get an idea of what's happening. And we're doing it as a Q&A, so you can join us next week, Monday. Is there one more question?
Yeah, so this is a follow-up from BA. I'm struggling to grow my LinkedIn. I'm posting about my service as a coach. How do you balance being vulnerable but not sharing too much whilst also trying to grow your audience? I think this is a mistake that a lot of people make when they post on LinkedIn, especially somewhere like LinkedIn, because it's a place to do business. When you're posting about your services as a coach, what you're doing is posting an advert, and that doesn't always work, right? There's I teach entrepreneurs this in my day job. There's 3 types of content that you should be posting, and the last one on that list is talking about your services, selling your services, i.e. come and buy this, or I am a coach, this is what I do. The first 2 pieces are key, right? So the first one is educational content, right? Giving people free education, and I genuinely mean free, teaching them something that you know without the expectation of anything in return, right? So that's what I was saying about earlier. What can you talk about passionately? What do you know? What you're an expert in? So for example, on my channels, I talk about video, lighting, audio. I give it all away, right? I don't expect anything in return. I just give information out and it's there for free. So that's the first type of content you should be. In fact, that should be the majority of the type of content you're posting, because that's what's going to give people value. They're going to think, geez, gosh, this person's giving so much stuff for free. What else could they be giving me if I paid them, right? So if you're a coach, give coaching tips, right? Give information, give the type of stuff that you would help people with in your coaching sessions. And don't worry about it being free, because if you're giving value, that will spark the intrigue of, oh, well, if I'm getting this much value online, what would I get if I actually paid for the service? And then the second type of content is storytelling, right? So telling stories. And you mentioned there, how do you balance being vulnerable but not sharing too much? Well, just share a little bit about your experience, because ultimately people do want to know who you are as a person, right? We talk about personal brand, the key phrase, the key word there being personal, right? So it's about you as a person. Talk about your story, talk about how, some of the things that you've done that have worked for you. Talk about some of your struggles as you've been coming up as an entrepreneur, or building your business, or building your brand. Talk about stories. So again, within the coaching world, without giving any confidential information away, or naming names, or naming places, tell stories about transformations, about things that have happened with clients, and things that you've helped to facilitate. And I think if you can focus on those two pillars first, so education and then storytelling, and then kind of talk about, okay, this is what I do as a coach, or the advert bit, then you're more likely to kind of build a presence on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is full of adverts already, right? Instagram is full of adverts already. I've recently got back onto Instagram after a long time. I wish I'd never done it, right? Because all I'm getting now, and it's unbelievable, because I've been off Instagram probably for a good part of a year, and then suddenly coming back on it, and I'm just gobsmacked with the amount of ads that are on there now.
Intense.
It's so intense in your stories, in your posts, in your feed. So there's already that type of content out there. But when I see a post that teaches me something, that's educational, that's informative, that resonates with me, I'm more likely to stick around and look at it. So I think, trying to balance your content with those types of pillars is important.
I'll just add one more thing on that, is that I forgot what I was going to say. No, when you create posts that are selling your services, it's around 20% of the content that you create for LinkedIn. So it's a really small amount. But you can also add some posts that sell your services in the featured section of your profile. So if people click on it, then they have access to what you have to offer anyways. Put a link to whatever, a landing page or a website on the top of your profile, and make it clear in your headline who you are and what you do, so they understand what services, and a call to action as to where to go. And when you create your posts, to build followers and to build your following, make content where people are going to engage and make comments on your posts, because LinkedIn will push this further. More people will find you, more people will connect with you. But I'd also say get strategic and grow your network yourself. On the free version, you can connect with up to 50 people a week. And I don't mean to say like just connect with 50 random people. Connect with 50 people who could be your potential clients and people who would value the services. And once you connect, you're lucky that they will see your posts for the next couple of weeks on their feed all the time. So there are so many ways to use LinkedIn to your advantage. Boom.
Amazing. All right.
It was so good to catch up with you guys today, and I'm really fortunate to have my secret weapon and husband here tonight as my partner in crime. Thanks, Sanjay.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
And I will see you guys next week.
See you later.
In today's fast-paced world, stress can impact every aspect of our lives: our mood, our sleep, and our ability to cope. When stress builds up, it can leave us feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. Let me tell you about a product I found called marine magnesium from the Naked Pharmacy. Derived from pure seawater, marine magnesium offers a natural solution to support nerve and muscle function. It helps stabilize your mood, reduces your stress, and promotes better sleep, so you can face each day feeling refreshed. You can order it now with code PD20 for 20% off, helping you find balance in a hectic world.